ladies and gentlemen, I am Vitold, and what a time! I mean, really. I've had a little to no expectations of this new BMW R 1300 GS Adventure. First of all, I've ridden previous generations before. Secondly, I spent some time on the regular R 1300 GS right when it was launched and first press motorcycles appeared in my country. I also tried one with ASA, so automated shift assistant, that this Adventure here has as well. I did not like that. Still, not really, but I found a way of working with it that I feel is best. So now that opinion may be adjusted, slightly at least. But my shock comes from the feeling that this is now it. This is the new R 1300 GS that I could actually buy myself, as it's free of all new GS related issues and disadvantages and seems to carry over from it only the best, while adding some on top. And adding a lot in terms of how you feel when riding it. It feels so much more complete and enjoyable to me. And no, I'm not a BMW fanboy, just check my other GS videos and you'll see. The core of my channel is to share what's real with no external influence, with no pressure, especially since I've ridden all large adventure motorcycles that are on the market right now, all mid-size ones too, by the way. So after all this, I am rarely surprised and I don't get excited easily unless a front or a rear wheel slips suddenly. But let's leave that aside. Despite the rear Michelin Anarchy ADV on this GS wasn't feeling the most grippy, so it was close. Still, good electronics save it, thankfully. First of all, this being an adventure, you would expect that it's taller with a higher seat, but somehow it wasn't the case, to the point of me at some point getting off the bike and looking for an adventure sticker on the side. It wasn't there. But for the record, you cannot really miss that 30-liter fuel tank instead of the regular GS's 20-liter one. The thing that changes it all for these bikes, one of the core points, is the height adjustable suspension called adaptive height control. Regular GS has its seat at 85 centimeters with a possibility of slight tweak, while on the Adventure you have to reach at least 87 centimeters. Mine initially had the seat at the higher position, so at 89 centimeters, which is super tall for most, especially on such a large motorcycle. But the thing is that in reality the seat is at 86 centimeters, still in the higher position. And that's where I had it feeling totally comfortable and under control of the up to 269 kilograms, actually even more, with fuel bike. And I easily flat-footed, as you see. That's also thanks to where the foot pegs are located and that the bike is slim down there where your legs are. Now set the seat at a lower position in an Adventure and the height is 84 centimeters after the bike drops down on its height adjustable suspension, which it does every time you stop. And it doesn't happen after you stop, it happens on the way to stopping. So once you're about to put your feet on the ground, the bike is already lowered. 84 centimeters on a GS Adventure. This sounds ridiculous. And you have control, by the way, so you may tell it not to lower. For example, when you're off-roading in some remote situations to retain maximum ground clearance so that it doesn't go down on some rock or whatever. Anyway, it all may in the end be lower than on most competitors with their seats in the lowest positions whenever they're adjustable at all. This, I feel, is a whole new level for the Adventure from the GS, and people who are looking for it for a variety of reasons. This can be the larger range thanks to the bigger by 50% fuel tank, different, more bulky looks, optional equipment that's already there, but most importantly because it's the top and most expensive out of the GS family. So a symbol, and people would land on their butts because of that in the end, in the past. They would go for the biggest and the baddest without necessarily being super tall or being super experienced riding, especially tall motorcycles like this one, very tall I should say. Adventures would be lifted from the ground very often, much more than the regular versions. Now this issue is gone. And it lets us all benefit from one more super hyper mega advantage that I'll mention in a moment that's now in this bike for so many of us now. What matters is that sitting on this GS with a height adjustable suspension is an easy task for most. Still, if you're super short, maybe the 2 centimeter lower regular GS would make more sense in the end, especially if you're not a fan of suspension lowering kits. I feel it starts to miss a point then, but it's your choice. Here the handlebar is nicely wide and in the place right for me, not too far, not too close, and at a perfect, I think, height. For me, I'm 1 meter 83 centimeters tall or 6 feet tall. There is a possibility of rotating the handlebar slightly as well. The upper body, in my case, is ideally upright with no issues there at all. Legs have a very good location on the Adventure as it's still not too wide and is easy to grab with your knees down there. Knee angle is awesome, especially with the seat in the higher position that I would keep there. It's a fantastic setup this way, and I don't remember a more comfortable sitting position on an adventure motorcycle at all. Remember, I've tried them all. Foot pegs are low in comparison. You can easily reach the rear brake lever and a gear lever. Yes, there is a gear lever despite this bike having automated shift assistant transmission, so there's no clutch. It's all easy to use and I'm very happy about it in terms of using the gear and the brake levers. The seat, it initially seems hard like on a regular GS, but in a minute it seems to adapt to your bum and it's really good. The material and shape of it are really nice in my opinion and I was comfortable on it. I keep saying that about the new GS. Maybe one bike has a slightly better seat, it would be Triumph Tiger 1200. Still, it is a personal thing. Now, what I need to sum up here is that sitting on this bike is very comfortable and it's important for my conclusions further. If you care about comfort, keep watching and get yourself an electrically adjustable office chair from Power Seats. At powerseats.eu, having this and a GS Adventure would make for a world-class comfort combo. Anyway, I consider comfort very important, but what matters in large haulers like this one, on which some riders will install side panniers, additional bags and a passenger and go for some cruises, well, there it may be struggle. GS never struggled before, but the 1300 can. And it will if you equip it with ASA, so that automated transmission, that may change gears for you automatically. We've got 1300 cubic centimeters of displacement, 145 horsepower and 149 newton-meters of torque like in a regular GS, and ASA at low speeds makes it quick. A sprint from a standstill is amazing like in a car with an automatic gearbox where you just put the pedal to the metal and it goes. Same happens here. The front wheel gets lifted in the second and third gear with all safety systems on and it's super exciting, let me tell you that. It encourages you to push it and I like it. Traction control works wonders, there's no hesitation or delays, but reach 120 and more kilometers per hour and just cruise along on a highway. Decide that you want to go quicker or to overtake someone, roll the throttle and not much will happen on the 650cc bike. Well, that's how it feels here, so try again, just as internet says. Roll the throttle wide open as quickly as you can. Now it will drop a gear from the 6th likely to the 5th gear and will gain speed quicker. But in reality it should drop more gears and explode forward. But it won't do that in the automatic D mode. They say it's learning. I say it's not learning quickly. It's also super harsh when changing gears while accelerating and it may change them exactly when it should not, which surprises you. I knew that after I rode that regular GS with ASA. But there actually is a way to make it work. Just never switch to D and stay in the manual mode, changing gears when you want, and on top of that, the changes will be much more smooth. It works more like a quick shifter then, with an advantage of the system actually being a smoother quick shifter in some instances. So if you like using this feature, I actually think, quick shifter, that ASA may make sense. I haven't thought I might say it, but if you don't need perfect control and mostly ride with higher speeds instead of in the city where precision of setting off matters, then I would consider choosing ASA and getting the best of it. Sometimes when riding with a constant speed, when you change the gear with a gear lever in this bike, the gear change is barely noticeable, very smooth. Sometimes it may also be fine when accelerating and maybe it all becomes better once the bike warms up, but it's still very harsh in the D mode. while not being that bad in manual, so that's the way. Setting off needs getting used to, and it may surprise some riders, which I consider a threat. Yep. Sometimes auto hold that keeps the brakes on for you may also get in the way when you want to reverse with the engine on, and sometimes you may lose your way when you switch the bike off and want to roll it around. So nope, it seems like you've got to switch it on. So have the key on you and take it out of the P, so park mode, so that the wheels can roll freely. It needs getting used to all that, working with it. But then you won't have to deal with the clutch, and the bike will not stall, which used to be the case with a lot of GSs and the riders who then fall on their faces. Knowing all this, depending on where you ride, I say I would consider ASA. Now, would I say I would get it? No. I believe I would still prefer traditional manual transmission with a quick shifter, if with ASA, only to use the manual mode. Anyway, acceleration from a standstill is fine with this engine. The torque is there, flexibility in manual mode at higher speeds is fine, but it's not a sports bike. Some adventure bikes, big ones, are, I would say. I can feel that I would like it to have more juice, especially with the way it sounds, which is as if it was going to lose its breath. It just takes effort, it shakes the bike, and it doesn't like it a lot. It visibly protests with its behavior. I'm still not a fan of this engine and consider its biggest advantage to be torque available pretty down low and not letting the bike fall flat on the ground because of the cylinders sticking to the side. Actually, there's also one more advantage, which is about also cylinders sticking to the side, which is about balancing. So yeah, let's move further. And you may live with this engine though, and it's more powerful than an older GS, which is a plus. But let's maybe leave it at that. Now about handling, which is one of my favorite things about the big GS since ever. This is top notch, as I always say. This GS Adventure lifts up on its suspension right after setting off, so riding on it, you're higher from the ground than on a regular GS. It doesn't influence the riding much, and handling is not worse, at least not too noticeably. It feels slightly heavier and longer to respond to changing directions, but it's still absolutely class leading along with the regular R1300 GS. It is enjoyable, it's easy to turn, it's perfectly under control in a lean. It doesn't matter if you brake or accelerate, it's going exactly where you want it to go. The Adventure will go, in other words, as if it was on rails. It is amazing, and sheer G-force that you can easily experience in corners is addicting. I'm not exaggerating, as this bike is it's a phenomenon that releases endorphins in your body with the way it moves on the road. Filtering traffic at low speeds is awesome, as it's so well balanced. Making U-turns is the best in class, and there is no question about it. This is the best handling motorcycle in the adventure segment, along with the 1300 regular GS. In the middleweight, there may be only one bike that can actually match it in its Aprilia Touareg 660, but GS may be better at high speeds. So I put this adventure in the same level as non-adventure version. Absolute pleasure with literally nothing to complain about it. Some complain that there is not much feel of the front wheel. Well, I don't know what to say to that. The only issue I find is the tires, which may slip here and there on exits from tight corners a little too early. They're Michelin Anarchy ADV, and while they do fine on gravel, somehow I would not feel entirely secure on a GS with them. As for the brakes, that is a similar story as with handling, and there are two words to describe that: confidence and G-force. Again, G-force. First of all, you basically need only the front gear lever to do what you want, as the brakes are linked, meaning that if you use the front one, the rear one activates as well. There is so much power, there's so much strength that you don't need anything more. But the G-force talk comes also from the confidence of using the system. That's not only due to a hell of a lot of power available to you so easily and so early, but also because it feels like it's just easy for the bike to brake. It doesn't dive, which is a signature move of the big GS with its front suspension that's called telelever. It just stays fucking flat, and it makes your eyeballs fall out of your skull once you hit the brakes pretty hard. And by the way, if you do, it may flash its hazard lights, which happened to me. I didn't even notice. Cool, fine. But this just shows that it's so easy. It's just really good, and ABS is working very, very well. It is amazingly exciting and successful in the end, which is also about safety. I do like that. I appreciate that. The rear brake on its own works, but it's not that awesome. It could be probably better. It could probably work a little stronger. So I would stick to the front one. However, I need to mention that the rear brake lever is located in a way that makes it easy to use. Unlike in so many motorcycles nowadays, it's simply lower than the foot peg by default, which for people with knees bending in a normal way is only then possible to use comfortably. Thank you for being the best here again, BMW. Alright, so enough stalling you guys. Now it's time to tell you why I'm so stunned by this GS, aside from the lowering suspension being so useful on such a tall bike. The super crazy thing that I'm also so impressed with is, yeah, the drive shaft. Nah, I'm kidding. I love the shaft drive solution. It's great in a GS and I appreciate that it's here, but this is not the thing. It's how this suspension works. I feel it is very different than in a regular GS. No, maybe not very different, but it's different. And a part of that is its key thing. Key thing for the Adventure, next to the larger fuel tank, is longer wheel travel by 2 centimeters. From 19 centimeters to 21 in the front and from 20 to 22 centimeters in the rear. That's basically 10% more, but what it is doing is making the Adventure fly over the bumps or potholes, like the regular GS does not. It definitely does not work as well. The wheels are the same as in the regular GS for the record, so with 19-inch rim in the front and 17-inch one in the rear, and I'm awed by how smooth and comfortable it is. There's electronic suspension, and in the base mode I just cannot believe how much better it is than in a regular R1300 GS. This one is enjoyable, that one feels like it's stiffer than it used to be, which I do not like. And that one feels as if it has not stretched enough in the morning. It feels pain and lets you know about it whenever there is something more to ride over on the road. Don't get me wrong, it is fine, but to me it's significantly harsher than the softest setting on the leader here, so Triumph Tiger 1200. While the Adventure, man, I wonder, it may actually be equally good or even better than the Triumph. The Tiger 1200 becomes soft and floaty while the GS in its softest setting, while GS Adventure is soft, but it is not floaty. It is tight. It's like BMW, it's like BMW 5 series. It's not too tight like the regular GS, but under control while it glides over stuff. And in the end, I'm reaching the conclusion that I promised you. This new R1300 GS Adventure is, in my opinion, a comfort leader. Add to that brilliant wind protection in the triple black edition, with a taller windshield with electric adjustment. Man, how much I love electric adjustment. It's to me it's so great. And the shield is large enough and it's designed so well that in the tallest setting you barely feel any wind around you. Notice the side wind deflectors that help it too. If on a hot day in the city you'd like more windstream, just lower it. It takes 5 seconds and it's good. You don't even have to move your whole arm. It's enough that you move your thumb on a switch. Still, there will be no annoying turbulences. I just cannot express enough how fantastic this Adventure version is. It's such a complete package. I know how it sounds. It sounds like marketing bullshit. Nobody paid me for that. I didn't get the bike for a month. I didn't get any gifts, presents. I'm not pressurized. I'm a free man here. I do not own a GS. I'm not planning to get it in the nearest future. So it's just, that's how I felt. I am shocked. Yeah, I'm not a fan of its look with that demonic front starfish. I do not like it and I prefer the 1250, but the way it rides now and allows us to utilize what's best about it, that I'm ready to recommend it to everyone because of that. Everyone who would be able to live with a shaky and not the most powerful engine, of course. For touring, maybe I would be able to. Riding just for fun, probably go with a KTM still. What else is worth mentioning, since I'm praising the Adventure so much, is some little things that can make your day. For example, with this adaptive height suspension, once you attempt to put the bike on a center stand, if the bike is on, it will raise, I mean, if the ignition is on, the engine doesn't have to run, it will raise itself to make it easier for you anyway. And it is much easier, I can tell you that. The center stand has a additional lever that you may open that makes the process even easier. There is keyless ignition and fuel tank. There's tire pressure monitoring system, which I always like and supported being in motorcycles and in cars as well. Heated both seats and both grips. Front LED light is cornering. There is a front radar, or there can be a front radar, that will warn you in case it feels like you may crash into something, and it works. It may scare you a bit too much sometimes, maybe, but that just by the way. But in general, it's acceptable. It's used for adaptive cruise control as well. In the rear, you may also have a radar that lets the bike warn you using the lights and the mirrors that there may be other vehicles in your blind spots. Not sure about the indicators used as a part of tail lamps, or tail lamps being in the indicators, whichever way you put it. There are also riding modes and adjustable suspension with road and stiffer dynamic mode. I prefer the softer road. A few more side remarks would be that, yes, once the bike starts rolling, it feels totally under control. But when stationary, yeah, you can feel its weight, and it's not that super easy to move it around, especially if you want to push it back while sitting on it. As then if you pull the front brake hard, an option called auto hold may come into play and lock the brakes for you. Then you need to add some throttle for them to release, so naturally and usually you'll roll forward a bit and then struggle to roll back again. Also, switching to neutral wasn't so intuitive for me, but when the bike is on, you may hold the transmission button or pull the front brake and hold the gear lever down for a moment. The display is clear and known from other BMW models for years. I just wish there was something about adventure on it, but it doesn't seem to be there, unfortunately. Small thing, but it would be a nice touch, I feel. There are two themes, with one having a round rift counter, which I like. Overall, I'm not sure why BMW is so emotionless in this area, but it is what it is. But I'm sure that controlling all the functions like heating, electric windshield, suspension height settings, with one switch being able to control only one at a time, and then with a need to get into that menu again, change the chosen function and start adjusting it again, is just a mess, especially with a rolling switch, an up and down button next to it, this new "it depends" button. It's just complicated and a pain in the bum. So what's great and what is not? I love the suspension and position comfort, along with the automatically lowering suspension by 3 centimeters when coming to a stop. It's brilliant in adventure. The position with the high handlebar and super relaxed knee angle and low foot pegs allow me to ride while standing on the pegs without so much sacrifices, which is rare. What's not cool is the not exciting engine and its sound, and the harshness of ASA transmission that may surprise you on the road in a de-automated mode instead of a manual one. Of course, you may get a GS with a fully manual transmission. That's what I would do. Also, it's quite ugly, or rather could be much better, let's say. I wish there was a step back in this area as well. They've made the bike larger in comparison to the regular R1300 and softer too, which I like and I support it. Keep it this way, BMW. Move backwards a bit and you'll move forward. Now it's time to move back with the R1300 GS, the regular one, instead of making it tiny, stiff, and sort of trying to be sporty. Make it more like an adventure. Well, it's a tough one now that I'm thinking about it. Anyway, I've become for the first time in my life an adventure guy, BMW adventure guy, instead of a normal adventure guy. You guys tell me what you think about the new Terminator looking like R1300 GS Adventure, and check my other videos about the new GS and its competitors in the description of this video. See you there.